Good day, everybody, and welcome to this update of P. Diddy. We're just getting very close to the trial. They've been doing jury selection. I am a lawyer with 3 decades of experience, and my clients call me the legal lioness. Today we're going to just talk briefly about some facts in the situation, and then I'm going to give you my own views on it from a legal perspective. Of course, I'm not giving any legal advice, just discussing what might be happening in a case like this. So we all know P. Diddy, Puff Daddy. He goes by many different names, Rockstar, and his famous white parties, or freak-offs, as they sometimes called. So the thing that's been happening most recently, so he's in jail awaiting this trial for many different types of sex crimes, some including drugging of people, men and women, transporting people across state lines for sexual purposes, and including minors. So the whole thing is just pretty disgusting. What's been happening most recently is jury selection. Jury's been asked whether or not they know certain people on a particular list. Now, Diddy's list, we don't know why those people are on the list. It's not, the list doesn't mean that these people are guilty of anything, and they certainly haven't been, most of them, well, as far as I know, any of them haven't been arrested for anything, but it's a list. And so we assume that it means that a list of people who may or may not have attended these parties or some parties. Now, the defense strategy is to say, well, that's the only thing they can do, is say the whole thing was consensual, even when it looked like there was force involved or coercion involved or the person wasn't consenting. That was a role play kind of thing. Apparently there are videos of the most disturbing nature. We will see when we get to that. So jury selection is well underway, and they've whittled it down to a very long list of potential jurors. That kicked a whole lot of people off, and now we're down to this list. And next week, the lawyers are going to have an opportunity to question them again, the ones on the potential list, and decide which ones they don't want. And the lawyers don't have to say why they don't want them. Now, the next thing that's happened is that it has been revealed that people who attended the Diddy parties, well, women who attended, had a very strict dress code. This included having to have their breasts hanging out, having to have very short skirts, no pants allowed, very short skirts, such that the buttocks are kind of hanging out. They had to be under a certain weight. If there was any doubt as to how much they weighed, there would be a scale there, and they'd have to get on the scale, and they'd have to be weighed. So obviously these are not the famous people. These are the young girls, obviously there for entertainment, in inverted commas. So this list is not going to be looking good for Diddy's defense. It's very seedy. Now, when people attended, especially these young girls, I don't know about the celebrities, but the young girls, when they attended, they had to sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. So apparently these non-disclosure agreements were put in front of them. They weren't given much chance to really read what it was, and some of the people who signed them were minors. Okay, and this comes to, I just want to talk a little bit from the legal perspective about, and this is now where my views come in, the legal perspective about non-disclosures, NDAs. We hear about NDAs a lot when it comes, for example, to Meghan Markle. People who worked for Meghan Markle had to sign NDAs, so then we all assume that that means nobody can talk about anything that ever went on in the household. And of course, different NDAs would have different wordings. But now when it comes to both the NDAs for Meghan Markle and for P. Diddy, I know it's a completely different situation, but we're talking about the NDAs, that does not mean that the person who signed the NDA can never talk about the things that they prohibited from in the NDA. So with Diddy, for example, anybody who was a minor under the age of 18, I believe, depending on the state, under that age, you cannot actually enter into that kind of an agreement. You cannot, basically the NDA is invalid because these people were too young. Children cannot enter into contracts, and an NDA is a contract. So they have no legal capacity. And so when minors, for example, kids want to enter into, I don't know, a contract with a record label. Maybe they're a singer, or maybe they're an actor or an actress, and they want to enter into a contract with the movie house. Their parents have to sign on their behalf, and there's no indication in this situation that the parents signed on their behalf. And I'm not sure that in an NDA anybody else could sign on their behalf anyway, because it's a very personal um, situation. Anyway, so that's one of the problems that he has, and the problem is for the person who signs the NDA, very often that person will misunderstand and think, oh, but now I've signed it, and they weren't given copies. So they know that they've signed something that said we're not allowed to talk about what happened there, and they're scared of actually revealing the information. So one reason why the NDA might not be valid is because the person might have been underage when they signed it. And another thing is an NDA can never, ever, ever stop you from giving evidence of something that was illegal. And so if anybody who signed, even though an adult and now they're properly bound by the NDA, if they saw what they believed illegal acts were going on, the NDA does not stop them from speaking about those illegal acts. Uh, and this is a very, it's an area where a lot of people don't realize. They think because I said I wasn't going to talk about it, I'm not allowed to talk about it. So if anybody saw somebody drugging another person at a party, somebody assaulting another person at a party, somebody sexually assaulting another person at a party, uh, anybody being held against their will, somebody who wanted to leave and then was detained and couldn't leave, none of that can be prohibited, or that person who viewed that or saw that cannot be prohibited from talking about it because of the NDA. And so I think that there's this big misconception. And of course, because he's a larger than life figure, and even if we'll come back to Meghan Markle, the bullying and those types of allegations, people have been very, very scared to come forward publicly because of those ironclad NDAs. Now, it's a slightly different situation in England, because when people's staff worked for the royals, ex-royals in England, they're also covered under the Official Secrecy Act, because they worked for the royal household. But let's just simplify it and say somebody worked for them in Montecito, and they saw this terrible bullying which has been reported. Bullying it might not be a criminal act, but it is contrary to various employment law statutes, and it might rise to the point of threats, which could be illegal as well. So those people, and I've never understood why those people haven't come forward. And my personal pet theory, completely my opinion, is that I wonder if some money changed hands with some people who may have wanted to come forward in that Meghan Markle situation, because I'm so surprised that people haven't come forward. But even so, going back to Diddy, people need to understand, or should be made aware, that just because they signed the NDA doesn't mean they can't say what they saw. And in fact, in some situations, people might be obliged to talk about what they saw. For example, if there were clearly minors involved who are being coerced or given illicit substances or something like that, in some states, you might actually have a positive duty to report that to police because of the minors being involved. And so, anyway, that's the update on P. Diddy. These ironclad NDAs is the latest thing to come out, but very soon in the coming weeks, jury selection is going to be finalised, and then after that, the trial is going to start. And my personal opinion, what do I think is going to happen here? Well, there appears to be, from what we've seen so far, so much evidence against him. Apparently there are videos. Very difficult to argue with a video, and enough people attended these events that we will get some first-hand accounts. Of course, there might be some fear amongst the people giving the first-hand accounts, because they don't want to be A, tainted, B, associated with some monster, or C, they don't want to be held criminally responsible if they saw something and didn't act to protect the person. They didn't act to, after the fact, then report it to police. Are they then an accomplice after the fact? So it's complicated. human nature kind of story as well. But I think more than enough people will step forward, and I don't think he's going to see the light of day, honestly. From the information we know now, I think he actually is guilty in reality, and I think any jury will find him guilty as well. And I don't think he will see the light of day just from the number of charges that are involved and the heinous nature of the charges. Let me know what you think. I really appreciate your comments. Now, like this if you do, and subscribe if you haven't. And I have a fire alarm going off, so I'm sure it's just a false smoke alarm, but I'm going to go and check. Have a fantastic day.